Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And today I have with me Josh Kowchek. We are talking about SoFi stock. We're going to take a look at Josh's portfolio. The reason why I wanted him to come on is because he has been through the highest points of SoFi, like now, and the lowest points of SoFi. Were you around in the original IPO days?
So I actually got in. I don't think it was after IPOE, but I actually bought in right around 2021, and for other reasons, I ended up selling at 24, give or take, because I had other stocks I wanted to invest in. But I continued to watch the stock, and as time went, it slowly went back down. My first time buying back in was actually when it was right around $10. That was my first time re-entering SoFi.
Well, it's a pretty good time to buy back in, and it's done pretty well for you. So tell me exactly what made you stick to this investment, because 90% of your portfolio is nothing to scoff at. And we're not dealing with small numbers here. Whenever you bring up that portfolio, we're gonna take a look. You have quite the sizable investing portfolio, and yet betting on a stock for the longest time that was going to $2 or going to zero or whatever people were saying at the time.
Yeah, so I mean, to put it in context, when it hit, I want to say it hit 10 or it dropped right below 10 is when I started adding.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say where the biggest conviction came in is me believing in the thesis and the fundamentals of the stock and what I saw and what I witnessed and what you and your show and everybody else discussed, that as it continued to drop, my belief, my thought process got stronger. And as that happened and as that went, I continued to sell and reallocate funds from other things and continued to add to this position. At the same time, just to put in context, I had two rental properties and one personal property that, just because of the peak of the real estate market here in the US, I went ahead and sold all of them. So at the same time that SoFi was at its lows was the same time I was coming into a decent amount of money. So there's a little bit of timing that kind of coincides with all of this, but at the same time, that same conviction that you're referring to is what led me to go ahead and continue to add, even though obviously I was in the red in regards to my position.
So I'll just share an image with you here. This is not your full portfolio. Um, this is just your share position, which you have 160,000 shares of SoFi currently at a $2.4 million market value. You're up 180% on that. How does that feel?
I mean, right this
all bet on one stock, largely on one stock.
right at this moment, obviously it feels good. At the end of the day, I'm not invested in the stock for just that. I'm invested in it for the future. So it looks good now. It looks great at right this moment. Obviously, the future is unknown. I still believe, which is why I still continue to hold.
Yeah. So what is that? Where does that belief end? Are we going? Are we going to be a top 10 financial institution? Like, where do you see the vision for SoFi?
I definitely feel like it's shoot for the stars, land on the moon. It's kind of that, put it in context like that, right? Even if they don't achieve that ambitious goal, even achieving half that goal, a third of that goal, they still have substantial tailwinds and upward momentum in order to get there. So I think we're in the early stages. I definitely don't think it's ran a lot in the short term, but I don't have the mindset of short term. I have more of a long term mindset. I mean, my biggest overall thesis still today is I'm in this and holding on unless something changes in the fundamentals until June of 2026, coinciding with the PSUs for the executive team. And at that time, because of the size of my position and how much of my entire portfolio is allocated, I probably will diversify and de-risk the portfolio out of prudence. But probably nothing until then. I will have to make some decisions in regards to my options, because, You just saw the portfolio of stock. It's about 2.4. I'm pretty sure my options in SoFi are right around 1.7, 1.6. So, and a decent size of those. I think I have 985 call options that expire January 2025, which my goal is I want to try to exercise as many of those as possible because they're all $4 strikes, $5 strikes, and $7 strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. Incredible. And then you'll be sitting very pretty on this, assuming that what happens between now and January continues to hold up. Do you have any worries between these times for
Inflation.
Gotcha?
Inflation, in my opinion, barring, World War III or anything crazy,
Mhm.
I think obviously with Trump incoming, I think that there's more talk in regards to ending things and coming to common ground, more than anything else. But I think the biggest concern is the recent tick up in inflation. I don't think it's anything to be truly worried about or concerned about at this moment. If you go back to, I want to say it was December, January of this year, the Fed was supposed to cut, I want to say March. It was supposed to cut early March. Everybody believed it. There was no questions asked. And then there was a slight tick up in inflation, CPI. And I want to say it was December or January, one or the other. And it was 2 months in a row, maybe 3 months in a row, which is why they didn't reduce rates back in March like they had discussed. And it got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Even if it gets pushed back, I don't think it's a big deal. If it happens in December or if it happens, sometime in the beginning of next year, I don't think it's the end of the world. As long as it continues to trickle down, that's probably the biggest concern, probably more than anything. Again, in the short term.
Right, right. What do you think about some of the competitive concerns that some people have that if SoFi doesn't offer level one options, that they're going to leave? Do you think that there's any member growth concerns or internal concerns like that for SoFi?
No, not to anything to that level. I mean, you're talking about two different clients. Just because one client likes one thing doesn't mean every client likes the exact same thing. That's why there's different platforms out there. There's a lot of people out there, a ton that don't like getting involved as in depth or taking the time to continuously stay on top of the markets or stay on top of any specific stocks or earnings reports or anything of that nature. So I think there's a lot of people out there that do prefer just buying index funds, or now they have the option for the robo with SoFi and all those different avenues. But invest is just one part of a massive business. So they don't have to rely on this. They're not just relying on invest. So they have a bunch of other areas.
Right, right. Whenever it comes to you using SoFi yourself, do you have any other products? Are you a member?
Yes, I'm 100% a member. Me and my wife have a shared checking account, shared savings account. She has a credit card. I have a credit card. We're both on Relay.
One of the lucky few to get on the credit card platform, eh?
Yes. We also have we both also have Invest. Not much in it, to be honest. I pretty much just take all of my rewards from the credit card and put it all into Invest and just buy SoFi stock. That's all I've been doing the entire time, and some options. But that's it. Nothing major. But that's the extent, of our personal involvement with SoFi. I personally would hop on and transfer over. I'm locked in right now to Robinhood technically until February of 2026 because I transferred over and they paid me 1%. So I'm technically locked in till then, but I would forego the money they gave me and walk away just to hop on board and be with SoFi if they offered level one, but they don't.
I mean, that's a pretty sizable client there, Anthony. So, hopefully they bring it out. I think that it's coming early 2025.
If they do, I would also hope that they would have, a lot of the other aspects of Robinhood when it comes to, engaging in options trading, whether it's buying calls, selling calls, buying puts, selling puts, and etc. There's a lot of user benefits to doing it with Robinhood. So I really hope it's more than them just offering selling and selling, level one. I hope it's a little more than just that is all I'm saying.
Got
But
you.
at the end of the day, that doesn't change anything in regards to my decision to invest in the company.
Yeah, yeah. Is there things that would change your opinion of SoFi that are current bear cases right now, company specific? Like some people, like Stephen Fiorillo, have spoken about the direction that they're going with business banking. He's not a fan of that. Are there things that potentially you're worried about from management's perspective?
Not in the short term. I mean, if we get up to a valuation that a lot of people would maybe consider overvalued or maxing out, and then there was other areas where they weren't expanding product lines or getting into different avenues, then I'd be a little concerned. But under the current situation, I don't see any reason for anybody to be concerned with any bear case that's currently out there. Every bear case that has came, it has been defeated and it has went. And it's shown by the analysts. Not what is it, Chia Pet? He hasn't reiterated and I don't even know how long. So it's overdone. It's that's why they're all quiet right now. So that's why,
It is
what was it, a $19 price target today came out.
from a non
Correct.
Wall Street analyst, but yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
So I mean,
$19 price target.
they're slowly starting to come around and wake up and realize. And I think piggybacking on the conversation you and Steve had, I want to say it was yesterday. I think y'all had that conversation. I think next year the tech platform and what's going to come down that lane, I think that's going to be that's going to be what moves the stock price up significantly. And I think management, Anthony Noto and team have been, I think they're a lot more hesitant to really start talking aggressively about that segment until they know without a question that it's for sure coming. So in my opinion, the moment that you hear an aggressive comment from Anthony Noto in regards to the tech platform, in my opinion, it's already done. It's already factual. It's not we think we can, or our goal is to achieve X. It's pretty much already a done deal. So the market may not re-rate and give it a hybrid multiple as fast, but in my opinion, at that moment in time is when, if I was on the sidelines, that would be a clear-cut sign to go ahead and get in.
I think it's funny that you say that, because on the most recent earnings call, they said, well, we're potentially working with some government agencies. And then just today, Galileo is signed as a provider for the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Yep.
For one of their card programs. So, he brought up very sternly that they are working with this specific type of client. And then here we're seeing signed another 3.4 million users onto the platform. So right now we're recording on Thursday. This is probably coming out Friday or Saturday. And so I'll be talking about it tonight on the live stream. But as a first sort of feeling about this new contract, how did you perceive this new deal? Like, is this groundbreaking? Should this send the stock up higher?
I don't think it's I don't think it's groundbreaking by any means. I think it's another notch on the proof of concept. No different than them coming out with I would say the loan platform, the personal loan platform that came out. I think that has substantial more momentum, and is a bigger news for the long term than this is. But I think it just adds more credence and more justification to what the Galileo, Technesis, what they're doing, what the platform's doing, with the core banking, with that whole aspect, AWS of fintech. I think it just adds more validity to the whole thing. So, and I think it also helps, if they're talking to somebody to bring on board, it's one more thing they can bring up, one more notch on the belt. And I think it's all leading in the right direction, which is key. That's what you want to see. You want to see momentum. You want to see consistent and continual gains. And I think this is just one more gain on the way to bigger ones. And I truly believe that's coming in 2025.
So do you think, going back to one of your largest concerns, which was inflation, which I can agree with you. I think that macro is going to drive what happens on the loan platform business side, personal loans, everything like this. They're wholesale selling loans. Um, is there any real chance that potentially 2025 is not this miraculous year that we believe it is, and that potentially the stock has ran a little too strongly on the idea that we're going to have a perfect year next year, when really there might be a chance that it's not?
I mean, there's always a chance, but if I was going to put a weighting on it, I would say 15, 20%. I wouldn't put a whole lot. I just think there's going to be too much. If you start talking and you factoring in rate cuts for corporations, or deregulation, there's just going to be so many tailwinds and so many different aspects that the hope would be that growth would outweigh any other concern overall. And that the government would do certain things in certain areas to kind of slow down inflation, if it is even a true concern. The biggest part of inflation right now, I'm pretty sure, is still real estate. It's still that's the biggest. That's what's coming down the least at the current time. And I mean, lowering rates helps, but at the same time, if you lower rates, what happens? People can buy more with less. So it's kind of tough in that regard. But overall, I still think inflation is coming down. I don't think it's going to be a true concern in the long run, but in the short term, that would be the one headwind that I would say, would have the biggest effect on the stock price in the short term.
So why, for nearly 90% of your portfolio, did you pick SoFi over potentially other investments in the market? Why not? Like what about digital banking got you so excited versus other potential industries?
I mean, easiest way to explain it would be, it's the idea of basically saying, taking the brick and mortar out of commerce, like Amazon did. It's the same concept. There's only so many stocks that you can hop into that, when you look at the big picture long term, truly have the potential to be the next Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, on and on and on and on and on. And when I learn more, you start looking at a world of digital online banking, where brick and mortar for the banking system is everywhere, and you rationalize the idea of taking out those costs and the expense that goes with the humans involved, and the real estate, and on and on and on. And then you start compounding that with what they can do with it, and then you throw in the AWS of fintech with the banking core. There was so much long-term potential, and then you start diving into the fundamentals and how they were growing and how fast they were growing. It just, everything, again, it wasn't a decision that happened overnight. It wasn't like one day I flipped a switch and was like, okay, great, let's go all in. That's not. It was, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. I don't know the exact. Look at the first time it dropped back down to 10, all the way down to $4.25. It was that period of time that I slowly but surely became more confident and had more conviction.
Yeah. And whenever you think about your investment in this stock, are you looking at it between a mix of, okay, well, like you said, your potential exit point might be June of 2026 during those performance stock-based units that Anthony Noto has at $25, $35, and $45 a share. So that's sort of a timeline on that. But are you looking at it like this could be a long-term investment if they do become, let's say, the Amazon of finance, or are you just trying to take advantage of the momentum for the short term?
So when that time comes, depending on where the stock price is at, I think that would be the time when I better be able to determine that answer. But to put it in context, me personally, what I'm thinking of, just because of the size of my portfolio, and if it does go to, let's say, 35 come June of 2026, obviously the portfolio will be substantially higher. I may, at that point in time, completely get out of the stock altogether to hand it over to numerous hedge funds to manage for me and just get paid a consistent dividend stream and 100% without a question retire. So that would be one idea. But at that point in time, I'm not I live very, low key. I'm not the, flashy kind of guy. So even if that happened, the money I would be bringing in on a monthly basis, I would still take that money and then reinvest in SoFi. So, and manage that myself for fun because I enjoy it. That's one strategy that's obviously what I'm considering. The other strategy would be to sell, a portion of it, and then let a good chunk continue to go, which in my opinion, that's probably what I would do. But I just can't say, at this point in time, because I don't know what that is. I don't know where my life will be at that point in time.
Right, right. I've made some bold predictions about some of the stocks that I hold, like Nvidia to 10 trillion, or Nubank will be as large as, JP Morgan or something like this. Uh, I like to let my imagination run wild.
Sure.
If you were to do that same sort of experiment, where do you see SoFi in the long term?
What time frame?
Let's say 2030, or 20. Yeah, let's do 2030.
So 2030, so 6 years. What's $100 billion market cap? $110 a share?
Yeah.
115?
Yep.
I think that's. I don't think that's. I think that's definitely that's aggressive. I mean, let's be honest. That's definitely going to be aggressive. But
Or
I
it might be
think
the other direction. It might be 95 or something along those lines.
okay. Well, $100 billion market cap would be what I would throw on there, and I would throw into that mix. That is taking into consideration a hybrid multiple, and the market, buying into the AWS of fintech and really getting behind it.
And customer counts, these sort of
Sure,
things.
yeah, of course, everything. I mean, everything would go into that mix. But I think the biggest difference between, for example, a $50 billion market cap, which would be a 3x or whatever it is from here, to 100 would be the hybrid multiple for the tech platform.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think that we're deserving of a hybrid multiple as it is today?
I think we're deserving of a form of a multiple. I definitely think we should be receiving a higher multiple than anything compared to a bank by any means. Like that shouldn't even be a conversation piece whatsoever. But I don't think we're deserving of a substantial tech multiple because it hasn't truly been proven out yet.
Right, right.
Not to the extent that that a real multiple would require.
Now it's funny, we've gone from, like, in a couple months, like $7 to $15, which is, by the way, the price that was required for me to get this conversation. Josh said, "Hey, it better be at 20." Or sorry, at 15. The next time we'll talk at 20. But between the times of $7 to 15, there's been a lot of conversations about where the valuation is. If you were to put where you think whether the market is being too greedy or too bearish or fearful or greedy on SoFi, where do you place that range in terms of its valuation?
So I would say in between, in between fear and neutral.
Still.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
based on that philosophy, neutral would be, correctly valued. It'd be, so I still think it's undervalued at the current moment. So I don't think it's, unfairly valued to the extreme side. That was $7, $8. So I definitely think we've came up, but I still think we're a ways to go to fairly valued. And I think what'll happen, it's just like anything else, the market goes past fair value and goes to overvalued, which is very common.
Yeah, I
So
completely agree.
I think we're right in between that extreme fear and neutral.
Right in between. So, I mean, so
22, you're saying 2250?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Where's fair value? I'm trying to gauge. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
somewhere right
interesting.
in there, for the current, now come January 31st, give or take, when they have, Q4 earnings, that fair value, in my opinion, is going to change.
Right.
I think there's going to be some, I think this will be one of those I think this would be a quarter that definitely goes down as, a flexion point.
Q4 or Q3, you mean?
No, Q4.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm very excited about 2025 guidance. I hope that we were all wrong, and like even my expectations of 2025 were way too shy. Which, to be fair, has been every single quarter essentially that I've looked at SoFi. I've given my expectations, and then they've beaten them. They've not only
Well,
beat Wall Street's estimates, they've beat my estimates.
well, I mean, to that point though, which this is what you want from a company, they keep adding, incremental revenue streams from every different aspect. And you do a forecast, or you start projecting out. If you can't forecast or project out something that doesn't exist. So,
And we saw a pretty good one last quarter.
we did.
I was saying so many times over and over, I was like, I don't get how they anticipate 80% in financial services. It's impossible to model out. And then here they go. They throw in $60 million of new $55 million of new financial revenue, 5.5 million in lending. But that just was a product that we didn't even know existed.
Yep.
And everyone says that SoFi is not innovating, but they're just not making products for retail. They're making products for institutions. How interesting is that? So,
which in the long run, I think, that's the best thing for the company. You can't neglect retail, but at the same time, if you have somebody already on your platform and in your flywheel, all it takes is for you to provide them with something, whether it's today or a year from now. And if they're already in the flywheel and what you're providing ends up being a benefit to them, it's very easy to capture them. So,
do you have any ideas in where you would want SoFi for new business models, new revenue streams, what you would want them to get into?
I mean, I do think, one of the biggest areas for them to truly expand on, besides the tech platform, would be business, business banking, all aspects of that. I think it's coming in due time. I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. But there's just aspects to business banking. You have to have, if you're a business, it's not all 100% digital. So there is cash, and there's, coins and change and et cetera that goes to that. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to manage that. If you run a business and you collect cash, and you have to go to the bank and you have to say, hey, I need 4 rolls of quarters, I need 5 rolls of dimes, etc. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. No, it will be. It will be. I'm interested to see it as well, and hopefully we see it as early as 2025. Who knows?
I don't think that's all. I think 2025 is going to be the year of the tech platform. I think that's going to be their. I'm not saying it's going to be the beginning of 2025. It might be towards the middle or the end, but I think that's going to be where they truly start having some traction.
I'll bet against you there. I think 2025 will be the year of lending.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. With rates being cut, I think it's selling loan city, and then you add on the loan platform business. I think that's going to be the hottest commodity. Well, I mean, it's just my opinion.
Could be both.
Yeah. I think the tech platform will do very well also. Is there anything else that you want to say before I let you go?
Well, the one thing, I know people, the biggest thing I want to stress, if anybody who's following me, is to make sure you always put into context. If I purchase something, just put into context the size of that purchase in comparison to the size of my portfolio. So I want to just put that out there. If I buy something and it's $25,000 compared to the size of the portfolio, that's a really small purchase. So just want to make sure it's not, misplaced in regards to that.
And everyone has a different investing style, right? Like, I think it's important to also realize how big Josh's balls are whenever he's making these types of investments, and that it's probably not smart to follow him in whenever he's 90% into some of these positions. He's making some massive bets.
And options are obviously extremely risky. And although it is elite, time decay can really it can really be rough. I actually experienced there's two trades specifically I did. One at which I held, and to this day, right now, it ended up being a phenomenal decision because it's paying off dramatically. And the other one I held, and I ended up losing $90,000 in the process. So it's definitely something you need to be cognizant of and paying attention to. So, what I was going to point out is, to your point, in the last 3 months, my account's actually up exactly $3 million right now in the last 3 months. So yeah, it's been a pretty phenomenal run here the last 3 months. But what I was going to point out in regards to options, currently I have 1.75 in options in SoFi, and what I was going to point out is these specific. I can do here easier. These specific calls right here, the $5 calls that I have 425 options in, and the $7 calls that I have 550 options in. If you go back and look, it doesn't show it here because I transferred my account from TD Ameritrade. But back in, I'm sure you're aware of this, but back in 2000, July of last year, when SoFi actually hit the $11.74 peak, that would have hypothetically been up here. And obviously, as the stock then retraced, went back down, I rode it through this entire, lull, if you will, and finally reaped the reward here. But just stressing to everybody, just make sure you're safe, make sure you're just pay attention and don't go too deep in regards to options. It can definitely be challenging.
Yeah, I think that's sound advice. But Josh, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Cowcheck20.
We'll talk again soon, but thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate your time, and bye for now.